You don't get an avoidant to crave you by chasing them. You get them to crave you by becoming the one thing they can't control: their curiosity about you. See, an avoidant doesn't run because you're not good enough. They run because closeness feels unsafe. So when you push, they pull away. But when you pull back with purpose, they start leaning in. The mistake most people make: they give their whole emotional menu up front. They over-explain, over-reassure, over-give. And what does that do? It removes all mystery. You've taken yourself off the pedestal before they've even climbed it. The truth is, attraction isn't built in the space where you're always available, it's built in the gaps. The moments where they wonder, what's going on in your world? When you stand still in your own power, when you fill your life so much that you are not waiting for them, something shifts. They start seeing you as a prize instead of a safety net. It's not about playing games, it's about understanding that your energy is the magnet. If you give it away too cheaply, they'll stop valuing it. But when you guard it, when you raise your standards, you flip the dynamic. Suddenly, they're texting you first. Suddenly, they're curious about your day. Suddenly, they're chasing because you've stopped auditioning for a role they didn't even offer. Stop proving your worth. Start living like it's already obvious. When you become the person who's harder to get close to than their favorite comfort zone, you don't have to force connection. They'll crave it. When you chase someone who has an avoidant mindset, you trigger their deepest instinct to retreat. It's not because they dislike you or because you've done something wrong. It's because closeness for them feels like pressure. The more you move toward them, the more they instinctively move away. They're not analyzing it, they're feeling it. To them, chasing feels like losing space, and space is their oxygen. Every text you send too quickly, every call you make without giving them time to reach out first, chips away at their sense of freedom. And when they feel that freedom slipping, they protect it at all costs, even if it means pulling away from someone they care about. The paradox is, the harder you try to close the gap, the wider it becomes. This is why stepping back isn't a loss of effort, it's a powerful move of strategy. You are showing them that you're not a threat to their space, that you won't smother their independence. When you stop chasing, you remove the tension they feel around you. You create breathing room, and in that breathing room, something surprising happens. They start to notice your absence. They start wondering where your attention went, what you're doing, and why you're not available like before. That curiosity begins to replace the anxiety they once felt when you were too close. Your silence becomes intriguing. Your distance feels different from rejection. It feels like confidence, because real confidence doesn't demand constant attention. Real confidence says, I'm here, but I'm not waiting around. You are letting them experience the space they crave without punishing them for needing it. And when that space is freely given, they no longer have to fight for it. That's when the pendulum starts to swing back toward you. They initiate more. They respond faster. They start closing the gap because now it's on their terms, and avoidance feels safest when connection is on their terms. By stepping back with intention, you're not ending the connection. You're creating the conditions where they feel safe enough to come toward you willingly, and that is far more powerful than any chase could ever be. Mystery is one of the most underrated forces in human attraction. It's not about being deceptive. It's about allowing someone the pleasure of discovering you slowly. When you reveal every detail of your life too soon, you remove the very thing that draws people in: curiosity. Curiosity is the engine of connection. It makes people lean forward, listen closer, and want to know more. If everything about you is on display from the start, there's nothing left to uncover, and what's already fully known stops feeling exciting. Think about the last time you started a new series on TV. The first few episodes hook you because you don't yet know the characters, the twists, or how the story unfolds. If someone handed you the full plot in advance, would you still feel the same anticipation? Probably not. The same principle applies to relationships. When you pace the way you share your world, you keep the other person engaged. You let them earn deeper layers of access to your life. This doesn't mean you're cold or withholding. It means you understand that depth feels more valuable when it's given in stages. An avoidant personality, in particular, is more drawn to what they can't easily reach. They're intrigued by someone who isn't an open book right away. Your quiet confidence becomes more captivating than oversharing ever could be. They begin to think about you when you're not there. They imagine what you might be doing, who you might be with, what makes you tick. And imagination is a powerful amplifier of attraction. When you speak, you don't have to tell them your entire history in one sitting. You can share enough to be real, but not so much that you lose your sense of intrigue. Leave space for them to ask questions. Let your life be a story told chapter by chapter, not all at once. In a world where everyone posts their every move, holding something back isn't just refreshing, it's magnetic. Because mystery doesn't push people away. It pulls them closer, step by step, as they try to uncover the parts of you that you've kept just out of reach. When your life is full, you become magnetic without even trying. Not because you're ignoring anyone, but because your energy is invested in things that matter to you. When you are genuinely busy, you radiate purpose. Purpose is attractive. It shows that you have a world beyond any one person. It tells people that your happiness isn't hanging on their responses, their attention, or their approval. This creates a natural sense of value around you, because people respect what they have to earn. If your schedule is always wide open, it sends the message that you're waiting for someone else to fill it, and waiting is not attractive, living is. When you pour yourself into your passions, your projects, and your personal growth, you become the kind of person others want to be around. Not because you're chasing them, but because your life has momentum. An avoidant especially feels safer with someone who doesn't rely on them for constant emotional sustenance. When you are engaged with your own goals, you remove the unspoken pressure for them to be your main source of fulfillment. That freedom allows them to approach you without feeling trapped. It also makes every moment with you feel more special because it's not predictable or forced, it's chosen. Your time becomes valuable simply because it's not always available, and valuable things get treated with care. Filling your own life doesn't mean you shut people out. It means you create a life so rich and satisfying that anyone who joins it feels like they're stepping into something vibrant. Your excitement about your own journey is contagious. It inspires others to pursue their own paths as well. And when you do spend time with someone, they feel your presence fully because you're coming from a place of abundance, not neediness. Every interaction becomes about connection, not completion, so invest in yourself. Build your skills, nurture your friendships, chase the goals that light you up inside. When you do that, you don't just attract people, you attract the right ones. People who are drawn to your energy, not just your availability, because nothing is more magnetic than a person who is already fulfilled and still chooses to share that fulfillment with you. Your energy is your most valuable currency. It's more valuable than money because once you spend it, you can't get it back. Every conversation, every reply, every glance, it's all an investment of your attention, and people treat it based on how you treat it. If you give it away carelessly, without thought, it becomes cheap in their eyes. When your time and focus are too easy to get, they lose the sense of value. But when you guard your energy, when you are selective about where and to whom you give it, something shifts. People start noticing that your attention means something. They see that when you're present, you're truly present, and that makes it special. An avoidant personality, especially, will take note. They're used to people overgiving, trying to win them over with constant reassurance and availability. But when you're different, when you show that your energy is earned, not just handed out, they feel a subtle pull. Because you're no longer another source of endless validation. You're a person with standards, and standards create intrigue. This doesn't mean you play cold or hard to get. It means you understand that your attention is a privilege, not a guarantee. You don't respond instantly to every message just because it appears. You don't drop your plans at the first sign of interest. You give time and focus to those who show consistency, respect, and effort. This creates a natural filter. The people who value you will rise to meet that standard, and those who don't will fall away. It also changes how you feel about yourself. When you start protecting your energy, you realize how much more you have to give to the things and people that truly matter. Your conversations become richer, your relationships feel lighter, your presence carries more weight because it's not scattered everywhere. And for someone with avoidant tendencies, this balance is key. They can connect with you without feeling smothered, yet they also sense they can't take you for granted. When you value your energy, they begin to value it too, and that's when they start leaning in. Over-reassurance feels comforting to you, but to an avoidant, it can feel like pressure. When you keep telling them how much you care, how much you're there for them, and how much they matter, you might think you're giving them security. But in their mind, too much reassurance can feel like you're asking for something back. It can feel like you're trying to close the space they need to breathe. And avoidance safety comes from having room, emotional and physical. When they sense someone trying to bridge that gap too quickly, they instinctively pull away, not because they don't appreciate your care, but because the intensity feels overwhelming. It's like standing too close to a fire. At first, the warmth is nice, but if you move in too much, it starts to burn. The more you over-reassure, the more they begin to feel like they're being monitored or expected to respond in a certain way. That unspoken pressure triggers their need to step back, to restore the distance that feels comfortable. Instead of repeating your feelings constantly, let your actions speak. Show consistency without over-explaining it. Give them space without making them earn it. When they share something, listen without rushing to solve it or shower them with affirmations. Be steady, not intense. This creates an environment where they don't feel cornered by your care. It tells them, I'm here, but I'm not going to crowd you. Ironically, this restraint makes them feel safer to come closer on their own terms, because safety for an avoidant isn't built through constant reminders. It's built through trust that you won't overwhelm them. When they know you won't flood them with emotional intensity every time they open the door, they're more willing to keep that door open. They start to see you as someone who understands them without judgment. And that's rare for them, so instead of over-reassuring, let your calm presence do the work. Speak less but mean every word. Give them the freedom to lean in without feeling chased, because when they feel unsmothered, they feel safe. And when they feel safe, they'll want to stay. Emotional self-sufficiency is one of the most attractive qualities you can develop. It means you can stand steady on your own 2 feet, even when someone else steps back. It's not about being cold or pretending you don't care. It's about showing that your happiness isn't dependent on someone else's constant attention or approval. When you need validation all the time, it sends the message that your worth is fragile, that every compliment or response is what keeps you standing, and that can feel heavy for the person you're with, especially for someone with avoidant tendencies. They fear being responsible for someone else's emotional stability. But when you show that you can thrive without constant reassurance, you remove that fear, you create a sense of lightness in the connection. They can enjoy being around you without feeling like they have to manage your emotions. You become a source of positive energy instead of an emotional burden. This doesn't mean you never express your needs or feelings. It means you handle the foundation of yourself, worth yourself. You don't need daily confirmation to know you're valuable. You live your life in a way that reflects that truth. You have goals, hobbies, friendships, and passions that keep you fulfilled. So when someone shows up, it's not to fill an empty space, it's to share an already rich life. This is deeply attractive to an avoidant because it removes the pressure that usually makes them retreat. They can see that you're with them because you want to be, not because you can't be happy without them. And that kind of freedom makes them more likely to come closer. Your self-sufficiency also changes the way you respond to distance. If they pull back, you don't crumble, you don't chase. You continue living your life, holding your ground, and maintaining your emotional balance. That calm confidence speaks louder than any words you could say. It tells them you're someone who chooses connection from strength, not from need. And strength, especially quiet, steady strength, is something they can't help but respect and eventually desire. Raising your standards is not about being demanding. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less than mutual respect and effort. When you expect respect and reciprocity, you set the tone for how people treat you. If you give your all to someone who gives you the bare minimum, you create an imbalance, and over time, that imbalance erodes both your self-respect and the attraction in the connection. An avoidant in particular will notice if you accept crumbs. They may not consciously test your boundaries, but if they see that you tolerate inconsistency, they'll give you more of it. When you raise your standards, you communicate that your time, your energy, and your heart are valuable. You don't give them away fully until you see that the other person can meet you halfway. This isn't about playing games or making someone prove themselves endlessly. It's about healthy pacing. It's about allowing trust to grow before handing over the deepest parts of yourself. When you do this, you protect your emotional well-being and make your presence more meaningful. You're not easily won over. You're not someone who can be kept in the background while they decide when to show up. Instead, you show that access to your full self comes with responsibility. For someone with avoidant tendencies, this can be a powerful shift. It tells them that if they want a place in your life, they have to show up with consistency and respect. It also changes the way they see you no longer as an option, but as a prize. People value what they have to earn, and when your standards are high, earning your trust becomes part of the attraction. You also begin to notice who is genuinely interested in you versus who is only around for convenience. Those who don't respect your standards will fade, and those who do will rise to meet them. By expecting respect and reciprocity, you ensure that your connections are balanced, fulfilling, and mutual. And when that balance exists, you can give your all without losing yourself in the process. When you leave space for someone to wonder, you invite them into a mental game they can't stop playing. It's not manipulation. It's the natural pull of curiosity. Curiosity is the seed of craving, and craving only grows when there's room for imagination. If you hand someone every answer before they even ask the question, their mind has nowhere to wander. But when you give just enough for them to feel interested and hold back enough for them to wonder, you create an irresistible tension. An avoidant personality, especially, responds to this space. They are drawn to things they can't fully predict or control. When you reveal your life in measured doses, they begin to think about you when you're not there. They replay moments. They notice gaps in the story and start trying to fill them in their mind. This mental engagement is where attraction deepens, because now they're not just reacting to what you give them, they're actively seeking more. Leaving space doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means allowing pauses in conversations, letting them reach out sometimes before you respond, and living your life without narrating every detail. It's giving them something to look forward to. It's letting them experience the pleasant frustration of not having all the pieces yet. Think about how a great book or film holds your attention. You keep turning the page or watching the next scene because you need to know what happens next. That's the power of controlled mystery in human connection, and it's especially powerful with someone who tends to pull away when they feel smothered. By leaving space, you're not pushing them, you're pulling them in without pressure. They get to approach you at their own pace, but their own mind keeps drawing them back to you. They begin to realize that knowing you fully is a process, not a single moment. And because they can't get it all at once, they value each piece more when they receive it. In that space you create, curiosity takes root. And once curiosity is planted, it naturally grows into craving. Flipping the dynamic means you stop being the one chasing and start being the one they pursue. It's not about arrogance, it's about shifting the balance so your time and energy becomes something valuable they have to earn. When you're always the one initiating, always the one adjusting your life to fit theirs, you give away all the power in the connection. It sends the message that you're available no matter how little effort they put in. And when effort isn't required, it's rarely given. But when you flip the dynamic, everything changes. You become more selective with your availability. You prioritize your own schedule, your own goals, and your own happiness. You stop saying yes out of fear they might lose interest. And you start saying yes only when it truly works for you. This subtle shift tells them that your time is precious. That being with you isn't guaranteed, it's something they need to value. An avoidant, in particular, will notice this change. They are used to people overcompensating for their distance, trying to close the gap for them. When you don't do that, you stand out. You create an unspoken challenge. They realize they can't take you for granted. They have to step forward if they want to keep you close, and the human mind values what it invests in. When someone puts in effort, they naturally feel more connected to the outcome. So by making them work to earn your time, you actually deepen their sense of investment in you. This doesn't mean playing hard to get or using manipulation. It means holding yourself to a standard where your presence is a privilege, not a default. You still show warmth and interest, but you do it within boundaries that protect your value. The more you respect your own time, the more others will too. And soon, the dynamic shifts completely. Instead of wondering when they'll make time for you, you'll notice they're the one checking your availability. They'll be leaning in, making plans, and putting in the effort because you've become someone worth earning. Living like you're already the prize means moving through the world with the quiet certainty that you are valuable. Not because someone else says so, not because you've been chosen, but because you've already chosen yourself. Confidence and self-worth are the real triggers of attraction. They can't be faked for long. People can feel when you truly believe in your own value, and that belief changes the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you respond to others. When you live as the prize, you're not waiting for validation to feel good about yourself. You're not measuring your worth by someone else's attention. You're living fully with or without their approval. This is magnetic because it removes neediness from the equation. Neediness repels, but self-assurance draws people in. An avoidant, in particular, feels safer with someone who doesn't depend on them for a sense of identity. They can enjoy your company without feeling trapped in the role of constant provider. When you hold yourself as the prize, You set the tone in every interaction. You expect respect without demanding it. You give your time because you choose to, not because you're afraid to lose someone. That freedom makes you more appealing because you're with them from desire, not desperation. It also makes you harder to replace. People remember the way you made them feel, and someone who is grounded, confident, and self-sufficient leaves a lasting impression. You become the person they think about when they're alone, not because you begged for attention, but because your presence had weight. Living like you're the prize also changes the way you handle distance or rejection. You don't crumble. You don't beg for a second chance. You keep moving forward, knowing that your worth hasn't changed. And that stability is rare. It tells them you're someone who can't be easily shaken, someone they have to rise up to meet. Confidence and self-worth don't just attract, they inspire respect, and respect is the foundation of lasting connection. When you carry yourself like the prize, you don't have to chase. They'll feel lucky to have earned a place beside you.